Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently working on getting our colony done for the moon, and we're getting quite close on that one. We need our power module and we need a mining module, but I was just looking through the contracts that were available. There's this one here, science data from surface of the moon. That's literally free. So we just go ahead and accept that one. And because we've not gathered all of our surface deployed mystery goo observation science from surface of the moon, this should just automatically complete when this does. So that should be absolutely fine. We shouldn't have to do anything at all to get that done. It just should automatically happen. So that is beautiful. Well, and we can get it done if we need to, if for some reason that doesn't end up working out. We initiated the first flyby of the sun? I'm not sure we did, but we'll take it. There was definitely no notification here a moment ago. That's very strange, but whatever. So at this point, we need to get our power and our mining modules up there, right? That is our current goal. So as far as the power module goes, I kind of want to use a very, very similar system to our habitation unit. Basically, functionally, the same thing, actually, is what we want this to be. So we're going to remove our liquid fuel engines. And we'll just place these out here for now. Do we have to remove them from both sides? Yes, we do. Okay. We actually only need one of them out here and we can duplicate it. So that'll be fine. And then we're going to need to remove our wheels as well. Same thing here. We can just leave one out and duplicate that. Cool. And I just realized we don't actually have the Gigantors yet. So we may have to go with not the power module right now, but the mining module. That might not have enough power to actually do what we're wanting it to do, but for the moment, that may be okay. So we just go ahead and detach this for the moment, and we'll get rid of these hitchhiker storage containers, but we're going to use a very similar setup here. Definitely. I want to make this be a little bit faster, so that'll be fine. Let's go into our... Let's see, where exactly are the ore tanks? Is that under fuel tanks? Yeah, the radial holding tanks. So we have access to the small holding tanks, or the radial ones. We don't have access to the larger ones just yet. Noted. In that case, I'm actually going to leave here, and we're not going to save this. I want to hop over and see what tech we need to have this happen. We might need to do a different mission first, but the overall plan is going to be very, very similar to the drop trajectory that we did for the habitation module. So we shouldn't have to do a huge amount of engineering work there. So let's take a quick look here. Large volume containment does not give us what we were looking for. Let's see. I'm looking for the holding tanks. Pretty sure there are higher level holding tanks. Let's see. Composites gives us like structural tubes and such, nuclear propulsion, very heavy rocketry, high performance fuel. Nano lathing doesn't really help. Nor does metamaterials. I don't think it would be in any of the flight stuff. Experimental aerodynamics should not be here. Heavy landing, no. Field science, I don't think so. Advanced motors, experimental science. Actually, it's under experimental science. Okay, so that's going to be 1,000 science to get that. Noted. In which case, we might want to think about some sort of a mission to, like, Gilly or something. Because we know that we need 300 science in order to get the Gigantors and the 1K rechargeable battery banks, and the 2.5K rechargeable battery banks as well, which is what we want for a power module. We need 300 science for our power module. We need 1,000 science for our large probes. Or rather, for our experimental science, for our mining module. So that'll be fine. I just want to hop back into the VAB really quickly here. And I want to check on one thing. that is specifically... Okay, we have access to the Drill-O-Matic excavators, and we have access to the Convertitron 250. So that should be fine. As far as our heat dissipation, we do have access to decent thermal control systems, so I'm not too concerned about that either. Radiator panel large is probably enough, but let's see. How much... Core heat transfer, max cooling... Yeah, it should be fine. That should do the trick. We can run some testing on our planet here. Did I save the colony habitation unit? I don't think I did. This is the auto-saved version. This is the regular version. No, I didn't save it. It just was still here. Okay. So that's fine. I think we're definitely going to have to run a science mission here. So we would then open up our, our lander? Like, our moon landing machine, right? This thing is not a landing machine, because we accidentally oversaved it. That's right. Okay, so do we have anything that is more similar to the moon orbit machine, or the moon landing machine, rather? That's the moon flyby machine. That's a little old, definitely. We can just rebuild it. So we can just do a new here. And the question is, where are we going to go? We've already landed on Minmus, but we do have a contract to plant a flag on Minmus. But we will do that anyway. So I think that this probably will be a Gilly mission. So we'll bring at least a P here. Bare minimum. We'll bring a P, and the P will, of course, have inside of it, we will need to put in a Science Junior. Like so. We will need a payload bay. So a 1.25 meter service bay. I'll just rotate it to be in line there. And we'll open that on up. Inside of this, we will need our full spate of science equipment, but we will also want to have, on top of this, a cargo storage unit. So an SEQ-9 should do the trick. And I think that will be just fine. Okay. We can't apparently scroll up any further than that. That's exciting. But this is our hatch here. We should definitely have, a ladder system on here. That would help. We've been able to do it without a ladder previously, but I do want to have a ladder. So we'll put the ladder about here. And we might want to have a, transfer ladder up here. Something kind of like this. In theory, we should be able to utilize that. So we'll retract this ladder. That will be fine. We'll need our deployable equipment here. So in our cargo, we would need a Communitron. We would need a GUA-BD monitor. A seismometer. Not that we're going to actually get any info from that. If we need to drop something, we can drop that. The ionographer will be important. We'll need some level of photovoltaic panels. We don't need a weather analyzer for sure. An experiment control station will be fine. And then we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 power here. Okay, I think we're going to replace this module, now that I think about it. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 photovoltaic panels. Now, what is the volume of these? 25 liters. So we can't store that here, just barely. But we can drop the ladder here and ditch the module there. Grab the 3-seater module. That's going to be more important for us. So we'll bring that on up, and we will attach our ladder right about here. Yeah, that looks about right. Cool. So we've got all of our deployed science for Gilly. We're going to have to think about our return trajectory, of course. So let's go ahead and grab our, in the science, let's go ahead and grab our experiment storage unit right there. And then we're going to bring this down, I think, with 2 drogue chutes, 1 on each side, just to slow us down for the main chutes. And then we'll put a pair of radial mount parachutes here and here, and then we will put a Mark 16 parachute on top. We could even toss in additional parachutes if we wanted to, but I think we're going to be reasonably fine. Reasonably. So let's put in our science experiments here. And this is going to be very similar to what we've done previously. So we'll just turn off symmetry, and we'll just place a mystery goo containment unit there. We will place in a press mat barometer. We will grab, for sure, a magnetometer boom, which will mount externally. Actually, not there. We'll mount it on, like, this side, externally. Cool. And then we'll put a negative gravioli detector. We will put in a... Let's see, we would like to have a mobile processing lab, but that's not going to happen. An atmospheric fluid spectrovariometer is not very useful for us, actually, except for here on Kerbal. There might still be some data that we can grab on Kerbal, though. So we can bring it. We're going to recover it, so that'll be fine. We can bring a thermometer, of course. What else do we need here? A seismic accelerometer, but it's not tectonically active, I don't think. It's worth a try. Negative gravioli detector. We don't have any sort of KER system, and we would definitely want one of those, so we'll just slot that in. Actually, we're going to use, like, a computer flight unit instead. And we can put that in, like, down here. And then we can just move that on over. Something like so. It's minorly clipped in, but I'm sure it'll be fine. The thermometer is going to be hard to access, but that should be okay. So, we're not going to have much for comms. We're going to need power for this, of course. So let's just grab some retractable photovoltaic panels, because we are planning on recovering this. We'll put those in there. And this is what we'd be planning to recover. So we would, of course, need to have a heat shield on here. We would do a 1.25 meter heat shield, and then a decoupler here. So a TD12 decoupler, like this. And then we would have our standard lander that we've been doing this whole time. I would definitely like to have quite a bit of fuel for this thing. So something like that. This is very tall at this point. That's to be expected for what we've got going on here. However, one thing we could think about doing is expanding the lander here. We haven't done this previously, but this would make it incredibly tall. Maybe too tall to land, but we would do something kind of like this, and then that would be our... No, I hate it. I hate it. I think it's definitely too tall. So we would bring in something more along the lines of what we've done previously. This would be a terrier that we would bring in here. I'm not going to bring a pug because we definitely want to be able to gimbal this engine. We don't have much for reaction wheels here. In fact, we don't have a reaction wheel. And that's something we should think about. I'd like to put the reaction wheel up top. It'll be a small reaction wheel. So something kind of like this. And then we would, of course, have our radial decouplers here. Very similar to what we've done previously, but I'm going to give it a little bit more standoff than we've had before. Cool. The wider the base, the better off we are. So that'll be fine. We can attach this on like so. Those would then get strutted together to be like this, and then like this approximately. Just to make sure that we have a good connection there. We probably don't need this strut. We would, however, definitely need a fuel line going from here to approximately here. Cool. So something kind of like that. And then we're not going to have heat shields on the bottom of this. I'm not expecting to bring these back. Our fuel costs are going to be somewhat higher than our other jaunts, but not, I guess, hugely higher. Well, it'll be a bit higher. It'll certainly be higher. We've had large amounts of spare fuel previously, so that should be okay. Now I'm going to put TD12 decouplers that are like this, reversed so that they go with the nose cones here. We're going to put on some aerodynamic nose cones, as we have in the past. And we'll make those be white. Actually, let's make this be like gray and orange. And then this in the center, we can make that be white. Kind of like this. I think that's not bad. So no extra weight here, and then we would have our landing legs. So those would be LT2 landing struts, and they would go in something like this. Nice and wide. That's very nice and wide, actually, given our height. I like it. So we'd start that retracted. It looks good. And we shouldn't have explosions when we jettison these. So that would be absolutely great. We'll put on a TD12 decoupler, and this is where we're going to transition to 2.5 meters. So we'll drop in this guy and this guy, transitioning over to 2.5 meters. And then we're going to put in a X232 tank like this. There we go. Then, well, actually, we can drop this. We no longer need that. Now we append in... we can... Let's save this as the Gilly landing machine. We'll save that. And we'll append in our heavy lifter now. So, we've been using this heavy lifter extensively. Where are we? Satellite heavy lifter? No. Standard booster. There we go. We'll merge that in, and we'll attach that here. And we'll ditch this. Cool. And instead of being ESA, this will be white. Cool. I would like this to be like ESA here, but I don't think there's an option for that, which is unfortunate. Okay. So this should get us there and back, in theory. We've extended this tank out again, and we've dropped a little bit of weight here. Just in theory here, we definitely need to change around our staging. There's no doubt about that. So these move down to here. What decoupler is this? That decoupler? Yeah, that's not going to be there. Cool. So these guys would detach first here. We would need a new stage, and that would move up to here, in theory. And then this stage here isn't going to be kicking in for a while. This stage needs to move all the way down. Well, we can put it into a new stage here. There we go. And we need that to happen at the same time as this decoupler. Cool. So this decoupler is all the way up here. That's basically the last thing that happens before our shoots. This should never be utilized. This fires at the same time as... yeah, at the same time as this engine. Okay. So that makes somewhat more sense if we do it like this. Okay, let's go from the bottom up. So first up, we fire up our mainsails. And our mainsails have a thrust to weight of 1.47. So they're kind of trending downward in terms of their overall thrust, but it should be okay. Then, by the time these detach, we should be at least like 20 kilometers. Something like this. So, that detaches and this tank starts being drained. Then, that tank detaches and we fire up this engine here, which is in stage 5. At this point, we should be fully in orbit. So stage 5 has about 2,500 meters per second. Okay. Then this decoupler does not fire here. This decoupler fires here. Perfect. So this stage 4 here, fires after that. Yes, and that brings in another 2,000 meters per second. This detaches, and that will be in stage 3, another 1,179. And then this detaches, our shoots deploy, and yeah, that looks good. That looks good. I'm a little concerned here still about how many shoots we've got if we're planning on recovering any of this, but I'm not planning on recovering any of this. Our shoots should be more than fine to recover this. That should be massive overkill. So in theory, this should do the trick. So let's make sure... I don't like having these be black and orange. We could just have them be white, in theory. And the decoupler here, black and white, like this. I feel like this interstage needs to be colored differently, though. If that's the case. I don't like it. I don't like it. Yeah, I definitely don't. I want this up here to be different. So we could make this whole thing, in theory, be dark. Other than this decoupler I think is basically what it is. So this tank here would go to be dark. something along the lines of this. I don't really like the nose cone being capped in white, but it's fine, I guess. The service bay has to be white, as does the Science Junior. So it's kind of this. I guess that works. Cool. So let's go ahead and save that, and let's put our crew in here. Who are we going to be bringing? We are going to be bringing Valentina, for sure, and I think we'll just bring Bill and Bob. But Valentina has less XP at this point than Jebediah does. So this should do the trick. We don't have any real way to communicate with the KSC. And that's okay. We don't need it. We're going to be crew piloted. So we'll go ahead and launch this. And we're going to head on off. So we're looking to land on Gilly here. Our first interplanetary journey. And that should get us just a lot of science. We have a lot of science that's going to come back passively over time from our mobile processing lab that we'll have to transmit from, as well as from our surface deployed things. Plus, this will get us a whole lot of science, and it should, in theory, be just fine. So apparently we can grab a seismic scan, a gravity scan, and an atmospheric analysis right here on the pad. We may as well. Cool. And we'll collect all of that data, and we'll grab it again. Cool. Now we'll recover the vessel, because I guess we just get free science. Absolutely fantastic. So we've got flying low and then flying high data that we're going to want to collect for some of that, which is fine. But we'll definitely put this back on the pad here. How much science did we get? 20.1. Yeah, it's not a lot, but it's something. Okay, let's launch this again. I guess I probably should use the Launchpad to launch it. It might save a loading screen, but that's fine. We'll get this thing launched. I believe we're going to have to grab the atmospheric analysis again on the ground here. If I'm understanding what X Science was telling me correctly. Let's see. Yes. We can get another 0.2 science here, and that's fine. We're going to open up the service bay here, and I'm going to pin that, and we will keep that experiment and then collect that up in our, not our parachute, we'll collect that in our experiment storage unit. Cool. Okay, so our service bay is currently locked in the open position. We'll close that, SAS on, throttle up, and off we go. Okay, we'll reopen it, atmospheric analysis, and we're not going to run the material study here, but we'll grab the atmospheric analysis, we'll collect that data, and we will close this. We'll also head on over and start our gravity turn. Beautiful. We could grab another atmosphere analysis here, but I'm not too fussed about that, to be honest. That's not the major point of this particular mission. So we'll just park here and lock to prograde. Cool. So how long until we are burned out on our side tanks? At this point, that is going to be another 50 seconds. Keeping an eye on our apoapsis here. We're picking up a lot of horizontal speed. And to be honest, not a whole lot of vertical speed. But that's honestly good, ultimately. That is ultimately a good thing. Assuming that we manage to punch our way through the atmosphere here. And we should. Our thrust to weight is increasing. We've got another 30 seconds of burn on our powerful engines here. It's all looking good. Time to apoapsis is increasing, so that is fine. If we see that time to apoapsis starting to decrease, we know we need more vertical speed. But for the moment, it's looking good. We're just punching our way up. Our side tanks are going to detach in 8 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Clean detach. How are we looking on our time to apoapsis? Going up. Perfect. That is exactly what we want to see. So this is a good flight profile, it looks like. I like it. Apoapsis height is currently 50 kilometers, and we're most of the way over towards the horizon at this moment. We're just going to continue burning prograde here until our apoapsis height peaks out of the atmosphere, and then we'll probably head to the horizon. We will see this atmospheric effect dropping off pretty soon. We are definitely getting into the thinner portions of the atmosphere. No doubt about that one. Okay, so we're going to be dipping into space with the apoapsis very shortly here, so I'm just heading over directly to the horizon. I want to get pure horizontal speed at this point. We have plenty of altitude, and we'll burn here until we're at about 100 kilometers. Which won't be too much longer. 80 kilometers. 85. 90 kilometers. And 100 kilometers. I'm actually going to get a little bit extra in case of drag, but it should be fine. So, at the apoapsis here, of course, we are going to add a maneuver and push ourselves out into orbit. Something along the lines of this. It's only 200 meters per second, not too bad. And we're steering our way over to this position. Looks good. We're going to be hitting space momentarily here. And we should probably go ahead and fire these nose cones about now. So off they go. They should be... they'll go away eventually. We can grab our gravity scan and our magnetometer report, which apparently we do not have. And we can begin to warp here. Cool. There's our magnetometer report. And we'll go ahead and collect all of that data. That's the chute. We'll go ahead and collect all of that data. Beautiful. So we've got our burn to circularize here in about 45 seconds. And we should probably go ahead and deploy our solar panels. There we go. We don't have much for battery storage, so we're going to have to make sure that we're landing on the light side of Gilly, but that's fine. It doesn't actually matter to us. We're going to warp forward a little bit here. 10 seconds. And burn. Cool. And we'll just pop into orbit here. It doesn't have to be a perfect orbit. We can burn a little harder. There we go. That's close enough. Perfect. So, I mean, it's not a perfect orbit, but it's a close enough orbit. So that will be absolutely fine. And with that, it is time to put a cut in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we are going to head off to Gilly. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including Casserole, ALS Gamer, Kentuin, James, Shadowwolf, MLohan80, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Video Games Are Not Real, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Unisol, Kadra, Rogue Corvid, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.